when people are treated well, they work better. Every single one of us brings something different to the table. We need to cease thinking about working together as a mechanistic thing and start thinking about it as a more organic thing, because we're humans.
Welcome back. We are here at EODF 2025 in Budapest.
Yeah.
Really excited to welcome Dinah Larsen, who's here with us. Dinah's from impactfulorganizations.com and from dianalarsen.com. And we've also got Seb Finley, who's one of our EODF esteemed colleagues. So Dinah's got a fascinating history with all sorts of things that I'm sure we'll be talking about over the coming little period. But the first thing that I wanted to ask about was self-organizing teams.
Yes.
Or self-directing teams, and interested in what you've observed and what you've seen in that area.
Well, I have seen that when teams of people are given the right environment and the right encouragements to work in when I first started working, it was self-managing, and then it turned into self-directing, and then it turned into self-organizing. It's always meant kind of the same thing. When they're given that opportunity, they do good work and they love their work. And so that to me is the main hallmark. In general, it's been my experience that when a team is effectively working that way and getting the support that they need to work that way, people love their work, and when people love their work, they do great work together. So,
you sort of talked earlier over lunch about how we can be more humane in organizations.
Yeah.
And so sort of thinking about that, maybe let's step back a few years and talk us through the journey that you've come on. What's sort of taking you here to ODF or EODF and to ODF and the other organizations that you've been involved with to how to make the workplace more humane.
I think the humane workplaces sometimes get a bad rap, for one thing. I just want to start there. It's not about everything being nicey nice. You know, a humane workplace is a place with, as we talk, a lot of people are talking about today, good psychological safety for people, where people can share their ideas and so on, and not feel like they're going to be negatively impacted by doing that. And for me, that is the foundation of teamwork, of having the point of working together as a team is to get the benefits of collaboration, and you can't get the benefits of collaboration, lots of brilliant minds all, working on the same kind of problems, unless you have that sense that that work is going to be valued here and that we're going to be treated well and so on. So my motivation for working toward more humane workplaces is a place where human beings can get needs met. And when human beings are getting their needs met, they are also getting their achievement needs met, which means there is benefit to the business.
Yeah.
My former business partner used to say, I don't know if I should call you a pragmatic visionary or a visionary pragmatist. It's like, I'm not just like about blue sky and pretty flowers and bluebirds, right? I also am very focused on seeing results. And what I have learned over my experience in my lifetime is that when people are treated well, they work better. And so if you only want to look at it from that very, very results-oriented, performative point of view, still, humane workplaces make the most sense. Places where people have the opportunity to grow and develop their skills and their awareness of for instance, what customers might be needing from them, or to even have a sense of empathy for customers and what they need and why they might need it. And so things like jobs to be done and things like that, which we think of as more hardcore business things, not humane workplace things, but they are humane workplace things because that's part of the human needs that we have. Yeah. So for me, that's all a part of it. And it's the work, one way and another, the work I have been doing since the late 80s. And a lot of that was originally work process redesign. I worked with some wonderful mentors and really good designers who taught me about socio-technical systems design. And we did that work for a long time, and other similar kinds of things. I began realizing more and more the impact that leadership and management have on whether or not that sticks around, whether or not that is able to persist and be encouraged in an organization. And so that's also become a lot of my work, is how do we help leaders be effective in that, because they often leaders are often lead the way they were mentored to lead, or they try to replicate their parents, which is non-judgmental about that in the workplace. There's a lot of pros and cons, right? But so over time, my work has been really the intersection of that really strong, resilient teams in dynamic work environments with what I call valiant leaders there to support them and help create that environment where the teams can do good work. And so that's been my journey, is getting to the place where I really see the intersection of those three elements.
And one of the things we've been exploring is we've been hearing about very different ways that can manifest itself and show itself, different psychological safety. So if I think we've been given an example of a Formula One team, and that dynamic, that trust looks very different from other organisations in different environments. How do you reflect on it? Have you seen constants throughout the different environments?
The leadership that we heard in the video, the audio of that video, was very intriguing to me, and because it was calm, it was focused, it was confident that they knew what they were doing and that they would be able to get it done. There was compassion there. That voice I could hear knew they felt under pressure and was trying to kind of keep them on an even keel by the way they were talking and the information that they were giving, just to kind of keep people going. Those things, that ability to provide that. I mean, it was interesting because it was an audio environment, but they obviously provided the physical environment and all the other things before, but it was so much there. And so I like it when I see leadership like that show up, and I have seen it other places, and it does take slightly different forms, but that confidence that the team knows how to learn and is going to learn what they need to learn and going to do the job that they need to do no matter what they're faced with, that's always there. The compassion of the understanding that they may be in a place where it's kind of hard to learn new things and where things are tough and it's going to be a challenge, and so that has to be there. And then the courage to I don't know what the stakeholders in the Formula One car were like, but I suspect that sometimes those leaders get pushed back from funders or other folks, and why didn't you push them harder or whatever, and being able to have the courage to say, no, this is how we have to do this work if we want real results. That has to always be there from the leadership, as well as the team's willingness to pitch in and do the learning and do the work. So that combination, I think, no matter what environment you find it in, it's those same elements are there. And I wrote a book with Tricia Broderick called Lead Without Blame, Building Resilient Learning Teams, and we talk a lot about that in that book, about what are the ways that leadership behaviors need to morph as the whole world of work is speeding up, and how can leaders keep up so that the teams can keep up. And so we talk a lot about those things there, but those are the consistent things that I see across. I mean, it may look different in a farmyard, you know, or something where the farmer's got a bunch of people trying to, you know, get the crops in, but it's not, in those instances, it's not going to look that different if it's effective, if it's really working to help people work together as a team.
When you talked first about valiant leadership, with the name, I sort of imagined someone charging on horseback and some big glorious moment. But when you talk about the day-to-day reality, it's much more around consistent behaviors that build trust and sort of demonstrate like this sort of acknowledgement of people's humanity.
And advocate for I mean, the charging in is advocating for the work and for the team, right? And being willing to do that and step up, even when it might be unpopular with your leader peers or other folks. You
mentioned learning just a minute ago, and in that environment, let's talk about the leader first. How do you think good leaders, or how have you seen good leaders foster an environment of learning and sort of encourage an organization that learns well?
I think that's another thing that takes courage. It's another thing that takes a lot of courage, because I think in today's world, we still have a lot of work environments where people are expected, encouraged, whatever, to come to the leader for answers. Right? If we can't figure it out, well, we can always go and ask the boss, right? More and more, I think the boss needs to be willing to say, have the courage to say, gosh, I don't know. That's the tough problem. I've never met it before. You've never met it before. Let's go figure it out together. Let's go learn what we need to learn and model that, and model their, you know, the things that they know they need to learn as a leader, and be transparent about that with the people that are around them. And I think this is true whether you've got a formal leadership title or whether you're somebody on the team that has status because you're more senior, or you've got a background of, you know, more depth in a certain area or something like that, and so you're the one that people turn to for answers. You have to be willing from time to time to say, I don't have the answer. This is new. This is a tough problem. We need to figure this out, and just sort of support the learning in that way. Support that this is a valued activity, and it is part of the work. It's not something that we only do separately by going to classes. This is something that's ongoing all the time. We need to be learning, and when we need to upskill or develop in a new area, well, we might need to go outside and get some support for that. And so we would hope the leader would support those kinds of professional development and personal development efforts, and send people to conferences, whatever, you know, so that they get exposed to other ideas. One of the things that makes me really sad, I do a lot of work where I go into an organization and I will sit with a circle of leaders at a certain level of the organization. Oftentimes I'll do multiple levels in the same organization. And what I realized over time, based on the questions they ask me and the ideas that we explore together and so on, is that a lot of people are under so much pressure in their work, and that have leadership roles. They don't have time to go out and research new ideas that are being explored by other people. They don't have time to necessarily go away to a conference like this one, where they might be exposed to some. I mean, we've had some wonderful speakers that are leaders in their organizations that talked about their experiences. Well, where are the other leaders here who are getting to hear about that, about what's going on in other organizations? There's not a lot of opportunity for that, and I wish there were more. And I wish those leaders would also give more opportunity to everybody else in the organization, team members and everybody else that needs it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a bit of a veteran software developer, one of the ways that I've seen, methods that I've seen work really effectively to help teams learn is retrospectives and in agile software development. I know that you wrote the book on retrospectives. So tell us a little bit more about retrospectives. Maybe many of the people who listen to this might not be deeply familiar with agile development, and how we can take those sorts of techniques and use them in other forms.
Yeah, well, Agile Retrospectives came about because of a colleague, Norman Kurth, who had written a book about the opportunity at the end of big software projects, 3 years, 400 people, whatever, that inevitably had problems, didn't meet all the conditions, all the requirements or whatever. And to be able to have a meeting at the end of that used to be called a post-mortem, but he wanted to make them more useful. And so he turned them into what he called project retrospectives, which gave them an opportunity to improve their process for the next big 3-year thing, right? Well, around that same time, Agile started being more aware, and some other colleagues that I had said, if we're working in iterations or we're working in sprints and we're working in these shorter work chunks toward that big delivery end, but don't we have that opportunity to improve as we're going along and not wait till the end of, And so we were part of Esther, the co-author of that book, and I, Esther Derby, were at a similar gathering to this, where people were talking about, we should use retrospectives different. We could use this project retrospectives idea differently. We could use it as a continuous improvement opportunity for teams along the way, so they don't have to wait to the end to get better. They can get better as they go along. And so, long story short, we got sort of pointed to as the ones who should write the book. And so in 2006, we published the Agile Retrospectives, Making Good Teams Great. Last year, in 2004, we published the second edition. So I just want people to know there's a second edition out there, which now includes things about remote teams, remote retrospectives. I mean, it's a really thorough update of all the things we didn't know in 2006 that we know now, and that people need to take into account, when they're looking for improvement. But I just feel like that's been a really important, it's a way for the team to give feedback to itself. I mean, the idea of Agile was to build on getting frequent feedback from customers and getting, other kinds of feedback. But there is also that opportunity for the team to sort of hold up a mirror to itself and say, is there a way that we can get better at our relationships with our business people, at our relationships with our customers, at our relationships with each other, at the quality of our work, at what practices we're using. Are we missing any? I mean, there's so many opportunities for learning that lead to really thinking about what could we be doing, what else could we be doing? And also, what did we just do in this last sprint, this last iteration, and that now varies very much in how long that is, but what happened that was really helpful, and we don't want to miss out on that in the future. Let's make sure we keep doing that. That's legitimate for retrospectives too. So that has become a practice. It's one of the things that our contribution was a framework for retrospectives that replicates how human brains work, so that a group of people can walk through a process together by noticing a thing, thinking about that, or sort of thinking about that thing, learning about what we've found in it, and then making decisions about, do we keep doing it, do we not keep doing it, what happens next, do we need more research, whatever it is. And unfortunately, some people who do retrospectives or who lead retrospectives leave out pieces of that. They just jump right to, well, what should we do, what else should we do, without giving the team time to catch up with that thinking together process. And so we are continuing to advocate for, let's make our retrospectives as useful as they can be, and give them. Oftentimes when we leave out pieces of it, then the follow-through doesn't happen, because there's not been time to, as org design folks and facilitate, we know you have to kind of build to the buy-in so that people will then take action. And if you don't give the team that time to really get bought into the idea that this is what we want to do next, this is what's going to help us the most, they're unlikely. They'll talk about it, but then they won't do it, right? And that's true of all of us, right? Thinking about my exercise program. So if I just talk about it, I often don't do it. I have to find some other motivations. So that's been a big thing in the retrospectives world, is just making sure that it doesn't become just on the checklist of things we have to do every sprint or every iteration, but it actually becomes the valuable time that we can spend together to make real improvements that are helpful to us, to our customers, to the business.
You sort of talk about something there without saying the word of being participatory.
Yes.
Tell us about why so you mentioned earlier that you thought that effective organizations, it's really important to be participatory.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through what you've seen there and why that might be?
Well, I see that everywhere. Today in the open space session, it was a session about org design and agile and agility, and I sort of framed what my question was about that, what was the intersection between those three, and I had a whole group of people in the room that came up with ideas that I didn't have. Some of the thoughts I had a little bit thought about, some of them were brand new to me to think about. I guess we could add that into this model. That's participatory. You get better results when you get a group of people working together on the same problem. And I think one of my first exposures to that was the Victor Vroom and the participatory leadership. It's like, when do you make a decision by yourself? Do you have all the information you need? And when do you take it to the team, right? When do they have most of the information and they've got the ability to take action and they've got, and there are reasons to do both, but be clear about why you're doing this or that. Are you just making all the decisions because you think that makes you a bigger person, but you're missing out on all this information that exists in these other people? That to me doesn't make any sense. So most decisions, most organizational decisions, I find turn out to be better decisions, higher quality decisions that stick better when we've had the participation of people who have a stake in the game, who have the information we need, those kinds of things. Well, on a team, that's everybody on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you want everybody on the team to be a part of that. In other situations, you might be more selective about who has standing in this meeting or that meeting, but you want to pull those people together, because otherwise you're missing important perspectives, important pieces of information, important ways of thinking about things. I love studying languages, and part of what I love about it is I learn how when people who speak a different language, they think about things differently. Different things are important to them. There's different emphasis on things, and so every single one of us brings something different to the table. And that's why participation is important. and it's a generalizable skill, or a generalizable outlook.
Yeah.
It's not like it's some business specific thing. It's just human.
Yeah.
You're making me think of my home life, which has different cultures and different nationalities in it, and there is tension created from that. And
Yeah.
some of that's very creative tension.
Yeah, yeah.
But it strikes me you're talking about a culture here. You know,
Yeah.
this all fits within a
Yeah.
culture of learning. There
Right.
might be an action, there might be a retrospective, but
Yeah,
it's about the culture of the organisation.
right.
Diana, I want to thank you. You've brought us a lot of different ideas today, and one of the things that I think is important for us is to kind of think about different disciplines and how they might join together. A lot of the things we've spoken about today are about org design, but also from sort of software and the Agile Alliance. What are some resources or some groups that you think org designers could look to see different perspectives?
Well, I think there's some really interesting ideas in the permaculture community,
Okay.
in all the regenerative farming, all the different regenerative and sustainability areas. There's a wonderful group of folks who've been working on something called Beyond Budgeting, which is thinking about financing and organizing the work in a completely different way that is much more responsive to the changes in environment and the changes in information. Future of work folks that are out there. I mean, there are a lot of folks who have different perspectives, but are kind of moving in that direction of we need to cease thinking about working together as a mechanistic thing and start thinking about it as a more organic thing, because we're humans and we are organic beings. Mm-hmm. I mean, the people who conceived of our brains as kind of clockwork, that moved us forward some, but it's time to let the clockwork thing go, because that was maybe a necessary idea, but not sufficient to really understand us. And so I think we need to, I think we look around, we could find, my aunt was one of my mentors early on as being a woman in business. She had her own business, and she would mentor me a bit about having my own business. And she said, when somebody introduces an idea to you and you think about it and you think, that I could never use that in my family. She said, think twice about whether that's going to work at work. And not that you try to create the family at work, because I don't ascribe to that. But it's the human part. It's like the people you know the best, would doing that, would interacting with them in that way work there? If not, odds are it won't work. It won't work with anybody else either.
Great advice. I do have one final question for you. It's something that's been gnawing away at me since you mentioned it. And I asked if you're having fun today, and you said, oh yes, you love anything that's got open space. Yeah. What is it about open space? What is it that it brings?
Oh, well, open space, I think open space and Agile and organization design, frankly. But my first thought was about open space and Agile are a marriage made in heaven, because it's about self-organize. It gives an object lesson in how to self-organize around things. And I've been an open space facilitator since the 90s. I don't do it full time as a job, but I serve in that capacity, and it just one of the terms you hear a lot about open space is be prepared to be surprised, and I am always surprised. Yeah. There is always something that happens. Sometimes it's a great thing, sometimes it's not so great thing, but there is always a surprise involved, and so I approach every open space with what's going to surprise me about this one, And so that's one of the things. But I also do think it is a way of showing how people can come together in the moment, make a very valuable event happen, and and everyone take away. I think the principles of open space are like life principles. Whoever shows up are the right people. Whatever happens is the only thing that could. That's complexity and emergence and systems thinking right there, all in a little bundle. And it's one of the pleasures of my life that I got to meet Harrison Owen and got to learn about open space and facilitating open space, and to help be one of the ones that introduced it into the Agile community. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much again. It's been a fascinating conversation about organizational culture and mindset, and the value of participatory organizations and being humane. So thank you so much for that. One final thing. If people are interested in what you've spoken about today, are there any books, organizations, websites that they should be looking at, or ways to reach out to you?
Well, ways to reach out to me, LinkedIn. It's easy to find me on LinkedIn, and I respond to messages there, and then I give out my email address or whatever if we need to have that kind of conversation. I'm generally open to having a half-hour Zoom conversation with almost anybody, so that's a good place to kind of get in touch and get that arranged. The second edition of the Agile Retrospectives book. There's a second edition of a Liftoff book, which is about how to help teams get started. Liftoff, start and sustain teams. And the Lead Without Blame. Another book that was participating in is called The Art of Agile Development. It's actually by a gentleman named James Shore, and he asked me to contribute to that. He and I had worked together, collaborated quite a bit, together on something called the Agile Fluency Model, which is a model of how teams learn and what they need to learn when. And then another book that I have is called Agile Coaching Qualities, that I created with a collaborative group of other Agilists to look at what qualities do we really value when we talk about coaching in Agile. And it's been a long-term kind of love project, that one is. It's on LeanPub. So yeah, lots of ways to find me out there, and lots of resources, and the ODF in the U.S. is a great organization to get involved in, and as well as EODF. I'm a member of both, and Agile Alliance is worthy of taking a look at. Another book is called Impactful Organizations, which is part of the place where you can find me is impactfulorganizations.com, and then the book is also represented there. So, yeah.
Incredible. Well, I think that wins the prize for the longest show notes that we're going to have for everything there. That's fantastic.
I've lived a long time, so I've done a lot of stuff.
Thank you so much, Diana.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Seb, for that.
Thank you.